going to share with you the 6 shocking things I learned from dating narcissists. Side note, I've dated at least 2 narcissists in my life. I dated an overt narcissist and then I went straight into the arms of a covert narcissist. Both those relationships were incredibly painful, they were incredibly frustrating, and both ended in absolute catastrophe. Some really messed up things happened in those relationships. What I went through was really brutal and it was incredibly heartbreaking. But from that experience, as intense and painful as it was, I have learned some really insightful and, to be honest, shocking things about a narcissist that you might not be aware of. So listen up, because I'm going to share those with you now. So let's get into it. The first shocking thing I have learned about narcissists is that because they have zero empathy, they are capable of doing very depraved and incredibly deceitful things and having zero remorse, zero guilt, and zero conscience about the acts that they've committed. Prime example in my love life. So the first narcissist that I went out with, he was an overt narcissist. This means that he's your typical narcissist. He's super loud, super bold, very cocky and confident. And there was an incident where I was dating him. I was waiting for him to come home. Apparently he'd gone out for dinner with friends. I heard a taxi pull up outside the front of my house. I looked outside my balcony and he was kissing another girl in the taxi in front of my house. He was that brazen, he didn't even pull up round the corner. He did it right in front of my house. And after that, he was going to get out the taxi and jump in bed with me. Let's not get it twisted here. Let's not get it twisted. The narcissist does not give an F-U-C-K about you. They don't care about your feelings. They will trample all over your boundaries, and they are capable of doing the most awful, awful things. Another example, after that experience, I then went into the arms of a covert narcissist. A covert narcissist, they've got all the traits of a narcissist, but they're quiet. They seem very shy, very mysterious. So like me, if you don't work on yourself, if you don't try and heal your own pain, you might fall into the trap of then going into the arms of a covert narcissist because you think they're different to the overt narcissist. They seem very sweet, very kind, but they're the ultimate wolf in sheep's clothing. Anyway, when I was with the covert narcissist, the way that relationship ended was me finding text messages on his phone to a prostitute asking for an hour of her time. He sent those messages whilst he was at work in the afternoon. So he was planning to go and see that prostitute, sleep with her, come home to me like everything was absolutely fine. Then the next day we were flying to Bali for me to go and meet his mum and sister for the first time. That is how fucked up these people are. So this is your reminder, when the red flags start popping up in the early days of dating someone, when your intuition is telling you something isn't right, take note and cut off the relationship there and then, because your intuition is warning you. And that was something that I didn't do. I was desperate for love. So I ignored all the red flags. I put on my rose-tinted glasses. I ended up getting in terrible, incredibly painful situations with the narcissist. I have already done a video on how to spot a narcissist. What are the key traits to look out for? So if you click on the tab at the top of this video now, you'll be able to watch that video. So the second shocking thing I learned about the narcissist is that if you're ever in a time of need, they would not be there for you. And in my relationship, towards the end, it dawned on me that if I was ever on my deathbed or if I was ever really poorly, terminally ill, I had this feeling in my intuition that my narcissistic partner, he would leave me. He would either deceive me or he'd be the first to jump ship while I was ill. I just had this feeling that he couldn't tolerate me being poorly. Whenever I was upset, the narcissist never really comforted me. And I feel like they would see illness as a weakness And if my intuition's telling me something, no doubt it's right. That's one thing that I've learned. Whatever my intuition tells me, even when I don't want to believe it and I want to turn a blind eye to it, my intuition is always right. The narcissist is incredibly selfish and they want all the attention. They want you to be showering them with attention and love. And in that state, if you were super ill, you wouldn't necessarily be able to do that. The roles would need to be reversed. They would need to be showering you with love and comfort. And that doesn't come naturally to a narcissist. They don't know how to love. They don't know how to show people empathy. The third shocking thing I learned about my narcissistic ex is that he devised multiple tactics to put me down. The narcissist, they always want to be on top. They always want to be in control. And they always want to see you scrambling up that hill after them for the crumbs of love and attention that they throw to you. So in order to create that power dynamic where you're below them, they need to have you doubting yourself. They need to have you with low confidence and that you need to desperately hold on to them because there's no chance that anyone else would have you. So ways in which they do that, they'll criticize you. This might be done in a subtle way or obviously. Also, if you try to express your needs or feelings, or if the narcissist has hurt your feelings, they will shut you down. So they will punish you. They'll use silent treatment or they'll withdraw affection. And this is basically saying to you, don't you dare talk about that topic. Don't you dare mention how I'm in the wrong and how I've upset you and how I'm not good enough for you. And if you do bring those subjects up again, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be ignored for hours, days on end. I'm not going to give you any affection all week. Being ignored, being given the silent treatment, having affection withdrawn is incredibly painful, but it's a manipulation tactic. Another common tactic to keep you down and minimize your confidence is that they won't celebrate your wins and achievements. Any sparkle that you've got within you, the narcissist is hell-bent on stamping all that sparkle out. So any skills that you've got in any way that you shine, the narcissist will be jealous of that. Again, they want all the attention on them and they don't want you to realize how brilliant you are. Because if you realize how brilliant and actually amazing you are, they're at risk of you leaving them. So in my relationship, a prime example of how the narcissist used to keep me down and have me doubting myself, he used to criticize me, little criticisms, but it really hurt me. I can remember once I got in his car and I had my hair just pulled up in like a messy bun. And the first thing that he said when I got in the car, he looked at me and he looked at my hair and he was like, "I don't like your hair like that." And I was like, "Okay, thanks." Also, this is random, but I had an old pair of leggings that I'd just like wear around the house, or if we were just chilling at his, I'd wear them, and they had like a hole in the leg. And again, he looked at the leggings and he was like, "They're disgusting. Why do you wear those?" Anytime that I had a spot on my face, he'd always look at me and be like, "What's that on your face?" And I'd instantly jump and I'd be like, "Oh, it's just a spot, it's just a spot." And another time I can distinctively remember, a time that really hurt me, we were just messing around, playing around, being silly, and I squashed my face onto the floor, onto the carpet, and he looked at me in disgust and was like, "Ugh, never do that face again." And in that moment, I just felt so hurt. I thought it was so harsh. I never said anything like that to him. Like if he had a spot on his face, I never pointed it out. And I just thought we were just playing around, like, sorry that my face squashed on the carpet, like what's the big deal? Ultimately, it made me feel like I repulsed him. It made me feel that I wasn't pretty enough for him. And it really affected my confidence. It had me doubting myself, and you should never be made to feel like that in a relationship. The fourth shocking thing I learned about the narcissist is that they will tell you they love you, but they would rather end the relationship in a second than have to work on themselves and heal themselves to save the relationship. So for example, towards the end of my relationship with the covert narcissist, things were coming to a head. I was pointing out stuff about his behaviour that I wasn't happy with. He told me that he loved me, but he said I'd be happier without him and that we should probably end the relationship. I was trying to suggest that he went to counselling. I told him that I loved him and that I thought if he went to counselling, this would make things better. but he didn't want to hear it. The narcissist will never, ever have the capability to look inwards and heal themselves. They will never have the capacity to go to a counsellor and talk about their past and talk about their childhood and how they were abandoned as a child. That is absolutely out of the question. The narcissist's solution at this point, when you're not happy with their behaviour and it's not going to work out, is just to drop you, get rid of you, because it's too much hassle. There's no way they're going to work on themselves and for them to start the cycle again. So they'll find someone else who doesn't know anything about them. They'll love bomb that person. That person will fall for them hook, line and sinker, until a point in a few months' time when the narcissist mask drops. That person then discovers that they're dysfunctional as well. And again, the narcissist will then have to drop that person, and they will continue to go through this cycle for the rest of their lives, because like I said, they will never look inward and heal themselves. It is too painful for the narcissist. They have too much of a big ego to ever consider doing that. Because when we heal, and I know this from my own healing, you have got to put your ego aside. You have got to admit some really hard truths about yourself and be vulnerable and open and honest. And they are incapable of doing that. They will never be able to do that. So off the back of that point that I've just discussed, the fifth thing that I learned about the narcissist that's shocking is that they will fuck up any kids that you two have together. If you get to the stage where you have children with a narcissist, because they will never heal themselves and they'll never work through their trauma and their pain, they will remain dysfunctional and they will carry that trauma with them throughout their lives, and they will pass on that dysfunction and trauma to your child. I know for myself, after dating the narcissist and having those car crash relationships, I actually went to counselling, I went to therapy, and I realised myself, I'm not a narcissist, but I do have pain and trauma from the past. But I am in a position where I am determined to work on that, because I recognise that the trauma in my family has been generational, and my mum and dad have passed it on to me, and now I want to break that cycle. I don't want to pass on my dysfunctional ways to my children. But the narcissist, they're not going to want to hear any of this. They're not going to want to admit in any way that they're dysfunctional. They're absolutely perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. It's you that's the issue and everyone else that they've dated. You'll notice there's a pattern that all their exes were crazy. Their exes asked for too much. They were too needy, blah, blah, blah. It's always the same thing. On this topic of having children with a narcissist, something that came up that I can remember, the topic came up about if we had a child and it turned out to be gay. And my narcissistic ex basically said if our child was gay, he would disown them. Again here, this is a prime example of a narcissist not having empathy. Even for their own child, they wouldn't have empathy. Because having a dysfunctional father or mother who shows you zero empathy, who hasn't got the capacity to properly love you, that's really going to mess a child up into their adult years. You do not want to subject a child to having a narcissistic parent, because ultimately the child is going to suffer. The sixth and final shocking thing I learned about a narcissist is that they are a child trapped in an adult's body. My narcissistic exes, they literally had the emotional maturity of a 10-year-old. And my covert narcissist, he was incapable of communicating. He literally refused point blank to communicate with me. So prime example, I'd bring up something I was upset about. He would literally cut me off mid-sentence and aggressively tell me to shut up. He did not want to hear what I was upset about. He did not care about my needs. And he couldn't communicate about how he could have been at fault, how his dysfunctional behaviour could have been affecting me, and how he could not fulfil my needs. Because that made him feel inferior. It hurt his ego. So he didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear 1 second of it. So just know that is what you'll be dealing with when it comes to dating a narcissistic partner. I was honestly shocked at his inability to communicate. Honestly, it was just absolutely diabolical. So guys, I'm going to wrap this video up now. I hope you found that video useful and maybe learned some things that you didn't know before. My advice as always when it comes to dating narcissists, literally cut them off and run for the hills. Don't be like me, don't be a fool, don't wait until you're months into the relationship and cause yourself so much suffering and pain. If you're in a long-term relationship with a narcissist and you're struggling to cut off that relationship, my number one piece of advice would be to start working on your self-love. When you start working on your self-love, that is how you're going to have the strength and belief to cut off that relationship, knowing that you deserve better and that you can find a better partner out there. I have already done a video on my channel about self-love. In that video, I explain the 5 to 6 simple steps that I took to rebuild my self-love. Self-love is not a woo-woo concept. It's very simple things that you can do every day and you can get results quickly. So click on the tab at the top of this screen now to watch that video. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.